In the next few minutes, you'll see 11 of the most damaging mistakes car owners make every day when changing their fluids. We're talking about errors with oil, coolant, and transmission service that don't just shorten the life of your car, they can end it. For each mistake, we'll reveal what goes wrong, why it happens so often, and what you need to do differently. If you want your car to last, this is the one checklist you can't afford to skip. Number 1, skipping oil changes. What happens when you tell yourself that one more 1,000 miles on the same oil won't hurt? That little delay might feel harmless, but it's often the exact point when the damage begins. Skipping oil changes doesn't just push your luck. It sets your engine on a countdown you can't see until it's too late. A lot of drivers stretch their oil service far beyond the recommended interval, assuming they're saving time or avoiding an unnecessary expense. The truth is, engine oil has a limited life. With every mile, it picks up dirt, fuel residue, and microscopic metal particles. Leave it too long, and it no longer flows like a slick liquid. Instead, it thickens and gums up, coating vital passages in sludge. When that happens, bearings aren't properly lubricated, piston rings can seize, and oil pumps have to fight to move anything through the system. Mechanics often see engines that should easily last 200,000 miles fail before even hitting 100,000, simply because oil wasn't changed often enough. These aren't rare cases. They're among the most common causes of premature failure. Skipping oil changes doesn't buy you savings. It steals years of life from your car. Follow the schedule, use the right oil, and you avoid one of the most expensive shortcuts a driver can take. Number 2, using the wrong oil type or viscosity. Imagine pouring in a top-shelf oil from a well-respected brand, only to find out later it's slowly ruining your engine. It sounds impossible, but it happens far more often than you think. People assume as long as the oil is premium, it will protect their car, but oil isn't a one-size-fits-all product. Engines are engineered with very specific tolerances, and those tolerances depend on the exact type and thickness of oil flowing through them. That thickness, or viscosity, matters most during cold starts and high heat conditions. Pour a heavier oil into an engine designed for a thinner grade, and it won't move fast enough through the tight passages before everything heats up. On the other hand, an oil that's too thin can't maintain a stable film when temperatures and pressures rise. The result is metal scraping against metal, even though you thought the system was fully lubricated. One example, putting a 10W40 conventional oil in an engine that's designed for 0W20 synthetic. The heavier oil doesn't reach the top end quickly enough, and in lab testing, wear rates can climb dramatically almost immediately. That's why the numbers and letters printed on the bottle aren't flexible suggestions. They're instructions, written to match the precision of the system itself. Your engine won't instantly fail after one bad oil choice, but the wear begins quietly. By the time symptoms appear, the damage has already taken hold. A quick look at your owner's manual removes the guesswork and ensures the oil you're using is the exact kind your engine was designed to depend on. Number 3, overfilling the engine with oil. Did you know too much oil is just as dangerous as not enough? A lot of people think adding a little extra beyond the full line gives extra protection. In reality, that's one of the fastest ways to cause severe damage. You see, engines are balanced to run with a very specific level of oil. Once you go over that line, the crankshaft dips into the excess and churns it like a blender. That spinning mass doesn't spread smooth lubrication. It creates foam. Foamy oil is filled with air bubbles, and those bubbles can't hold pressure or carry heat the way liquid oil does. The result? Components that rub metal on metal under stress, even though the crankcase looks full. All of that trapped air also raises temperatures, leading to overheated bearings, broken seals that start leaking, and in extreme cases, warped internal parts from the extra heat load. Once this damage starts, it doesn't reverse. Bearings get scarred, seals continue to seep, and the engine becomes weaker with every mile. It's a common mistake, especially among do-it-yourself oil changers who think a bit more is harmless. But it isn't. More isn't better when it comes to fluid levels. It's a hidden disaster waiting to happen. The safest habit is simple. Check the dipstick carefully after every fill. Keeping your oil right at the proper mark ensures maximum protection without risking the silent damage overfilling brings. Number 4, not replacing the oil filter. What's worse than dirty oil? clean oil being forced through a clogged filter. It sounds backwards, but that's exactly what happens when the filter's ignored during an oil change. The whole point of clean fluid is instantly lost if it's passing back through the same trapped debris that's been sitting there for thousands of miles. Some drivers skip replacing the filter to save a few dollars or shave a few minutes off the job. It feels like a harmless shortcut, but the filter isn't just an accessory. It's the barrier that keeps abrasive contaminants out of the engine. When it fills up, it can no longer do its job. That's when the bypass valve opens and starts circulating unfiltered oil straight into bearings, cylinder walls, and other high-friction parts. Once that happens, every tiny particle gets recycled again and again, scouring delicate surfaces. Even brand new oil mixes with carbon deposits, grit, and microscopic metal fragments. The entire oil change is undone in seconds because the filter couldn't provide the line of defense it was designed for. Skipping a filter change is like cleaning your room and stuffing trash back under the bed. It looks good for a moment, but achieves nothing. A simple $10 filter separates clean lubrication from premature engine wear, and forgetting it turns routine maintenance into long-term damage. Number 5. Ignoring transmission fluid changes. Your transmission can fail without warning, but its fluid health usually gives the first clue. The problem is, many drivers assume the transmission is sealed for life, or that if it's not leaking, it must be fine. That assumption becomes costly because automatic transmission fluid is constantly under stress from heat, pressure, and friction. Over time, ATF loses its ability to cool and lubricate. The fluid darkens, thins out, and starts carrying clutch material and microscopic metal shavings. Once those particles circulate, they grind away at sensitive parts, while the weakened fluid struggles to withstand rising temperatures. The result? You get delayed gear changes, slipping under load, or sudden overheating that can wreck the clutch packs completely. Shops often disagree on service methods. Some recommend a complete flush, while others prefer the slower drain and fill process to reduce stress on old systems. But the real debate misses the bigger point. No matter how you do it, the worst choice is waiting until the fluid is already burned. By then, the damage has already begun, and adding fresh fluid can't undo it. Replacing fluid on schedule costs a fraction of a rebuild. Stay ahead of wear, and you avoid facing a $4,000 repair when a neglected transmission finally gives out. Number 6. Mixing coolant types. Think all coolant is green? That assumption has ruined more engines than most people realize. Not all antifreeze works the same, and the color alone doesn't actually tell you what kind of formula you're dealing with. Each coolant is designed with specific additives to protect certain metals like aluminum, iron, or copper. The formulas also differ depending on whether the system relies on organic acid technology, hybrid blends, or older silicate-based protection. When two incompatible types get mixed, those additives react against each other instead of working together. The result is a thick, sludge-like mess that flows poorly, traps heat, and clogs narrow passages inside the radiator and heater core. Engines need a constant stream of coolant to pull heat away. But once those passages are blocked, circulation slows to a crawl. That sudden loss of heat transfer can spike temperatures in minutes. Mechanics often drain systems and find a jelly-like substance instead of liquid coolant, a clear sign that multiple formulas have been combined. Once that sludge forms, simple flushing rarely fixes everything. Entire radiators and heater units may need replacement, and the repair costs quickly outweigh the price of buying the correct coolant in the first place. A single wrong top-off can permanently compromise your cooling system. Stick with the exact coolant listed in your car's manual, because with antifreeze, it's not just about color, it's about chemistry. Number 7, forgetting to bleed air from the cooling system. Did you know a single air bubble can cook an engine? It sounds extreme, but it's one of the quietest and fastest ways a cooling system can fail. The problem shows up most often right after a coolant change, when the job looks complete from the outside, but air pockets are still trapped inside. These pockets usually hide in places like the water jackets or near the thermostat. Because air doesn't transfer heat the way coolant does, it interrupts circulation. The coolant around that bubble stops moving, turning the area into what is called a hot spot. Within minutes, temperatures at that spot can spike, and that's enough to warp a cylinder head or even crack the block itself. Stories of fresh services ending in disaster are common. A car leaves the shop with new coolant, only to overheat the very first time it's driven. Nothing else was wrong with the engine. The only mistake was skipping the step of bleeding out trapped air. That oversight creates damage worth thousands of dollars, simply from what looked like a finished job. The only safeguard is bleeding the system properly, making sure every last bubble escapes. Without that step, even a healthy engine is at risk the moment it gets back on the road. Number 8. Using tap water instead of proper coolant mix. Tap water seems harmless until it eats your engine from the inside out. A lot of do-it-yourselfers top off coolant with whatever water happens to be on hand, thinking there's no real difference. But that shortcut introduces hidden problems that can destroy a cooling system from within. Here's why. Tap water contains minerals like calcium, magnesium, and iron. When those minerals heat up inside the cooling system, they settle as scale on internal surfaces. That scale acts like rock inside thin passages, narrowing flow and trapping heat. In an aluminum radiator or cylinder head, this buildup doesn't just block circulation, it actively corrodes the metal. Over time, the results add up. Radiator cores pit and clog, heater cores stop transferring heat properly, and water pumps grind away until their seals fail. What seemed like a harmless mixture ends with constant overheating, leaks, and expensive replacement parts. A system designed to run smooth now struggles just to stay cool on a normal drive. The real danger is ripple damage. As scale forces the engine to run hotter, gaskets weaken and oil can break down faster, compounding the wear. And yet the fix is simple. Always use distilled water when mixing coolant. It costs almost nothing, but skipping it often costs thousands. Number 9. Skipping brake fluid changes. Brake fluid doesn't look like much, but neglect it and your safety is on the line. Unlike motor oil or coolant, you don't feel or hear brake fluid breaking down, which is why so many people forget it even needs changing. Yet out of all the fluids in your car, it's the one directly responsible for whether you stop in time or not. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, which means it slowly absorbs water from the air, even inside a sealed system. That moisture may not sound dangerous, but it lowers the fluid's boiling point dramatically. Once the boiling point drops, ordinary driving conditions can push the fluid over its limit. Under hard braking, the heat from calipers transfers into the fluid, and instead of staying liquid, it actually boils. When that boiling happens, the liquid forms gas bubbles. Unlike liquid, gas can compress, so pressing the brake pedal suddenly feels soft, spongy, or, under extreme conditions, falls straight to the floor with little stopping power. By the time you notice, it may be during an emergency where performance matters most. Many owners never think about this until the fluid has turned dark brown, already corrosive and eating away at metal inside calipers and lines. The solution is simple and inexpensive. Change brake fluid on schedule. Fresh fluid restores a high boiling point, prevents internal corrosion, and keeps your braking reliable every time you need it. Number 10. Neglecting power steering fluid. That whining noise you hear when you turn the wheel isn't always just normal wear. It's often the sound of fluid that's long past its prime. Power steering fluid doesn't last forever, even though many drivers assume it does. Just like engine oil, it slowly breaks down under heat and pressure, collecting tiny bits of metal from the pump and oxidizing into a darker, less effective liquid. When that fluid is left in too long, it can no longer protect the moving parts of the system. The pump begins to run hotter, seals start to stiffen, and internal passages wear down faster than you think. The first symptoms seem small, maybe heavier steering effort or faint groaning. Ignore those warnings, and it can escalate into complete pump seizure or leaks in the steering rack. Once the rack fails, you're not just topping off fluid anymore. You're staring at repairs that can easily climb above $1,500. What makes this mistake so costly is how quietly the damage develops. Old fluid doesn't just sit, it scrapes through the system every time you steer, slowly eating away long before anything feels seriously wrong. A simple fluid change prevents all of that, keeping steering smooth, quiet, and reliable for years. Number 11. ignoring differential and transfer case fluids. What if the most expensive transmission parts aren't actually in the transmission at all? That's the hidden truth about differentials and transfer cases. These components handle some of the harshest mechanical loads in the entire drivetrain, and they depend on thick gear oil to keep everything moving smoothly under crushing pressure. Unlike engine oil, this lubricant isn't constantly refreshed. It sits in place for years at a time, quietly doing its job until it finally breaks down. When that oil is ignored, problems come fast. The gears inside a differential don't glide. They grind directly against each other with thousands of pounds of force. Without that protective film of fresh lubricant, the surfaces start to pit, wear unevenly, and then chip apart. The first sign drivers usually notice is a high-pitched whining sound that rises with speed. By the time you hear it, damage is already underway. Vehicles that tow heavy loads or go off-road wear these fluids out even faster because extra heat and stress accelerate breakdown. Skipping just one service interval under those conditions can mean metal-on-metal contact and complete failure long before you expect it. You can change your engine oil on schedule 100 times, but if you neglect gear oil, the drivetrain won't survive. Protecting axles and transfer cases with simple fluid service is far cheaper than replacing components so expensive they can easily outvalue the car itself. Every mistake on this list, whether it's skipping an oil change or forgetting brake fluid, creates hidden consequences that don't show up until repair bills arrive. Fluids are the lifeblood of every system, and when they are ignored or replaced incorrectly, the damage builds quietly over time. Avoiding these mistakes is always cheaper than fixing what they break. The real difference between a car that survives decades and one that fails tomorrow isn't luck. It's maintenance. Treat it like an optional chore and you'll pay later. Stay consistent, stay careful, and your car will reward you with reliability for years. If this helped you identify stupid fluid change mistakes, tap like and subscribe for proven DIY tips. Be first to catch tricks with WD-40 that save you thousands in repairs when it drops.